Revelation 1924. From the 18th of May 1941. The struggle of the powers in man. The spiritual remains in a defensive position towards the forces which want to force it under their will as soon as this will is not good and noble. That is, if a person is influenced by bad forces in such a way that his thinking does not correspond to divine will, and if this person then tries to influence other people who are under good influence again, the good spiritual will protect the person from the working of these bad forces by taking up the fight against the spiritual which wants to determine him to act and think in an ignoble way. Thus the battle is fought in the spiritual world so that the human being will not succumb to the evil influence, and then the battle of the luminous for the human being's soul will be more difficult. The evil forces can express themselves in many ways, but always in such a way that the human being is tempted to do something which does not correspond to divine will. But the human being's will to walk the right path gives the good spiritual forces the right to intervene where it is necessary. And therefore the connection with these beings should also be maintained, because the human being thereby grants these spiritual beings the right to intervene as protectors. For the human being himself is too weak to successfully fight against the influence of these evil forces. The adversary does not allow himself to be deprived of souls without a fight. He seeks again and again to destroy what has been built up by the beings of light. He often comes under the cloak of deepest piety and seeks to lead man on a different path. He apparently wants the same, but his goal is completely opposite, for he wants to extinguish the light which the good spiritual beings try to spread amongst people. And for this purpose he uses all willing souls, that is, he speaks through people himself. And they are all too easily willing to comply with his request, for they don't recognize the intrigue of the one who wants to overthrow the souls. And thus they are willing servants to him, they carry out what the adversary gives them in thought. And if the good forces did not want to protect the human being by sharpening his senses and strengthening his will to reject what these forces want to instill into him, the human being would be exposed to this intrigue and thus in great danger. But this way he will be able to resist more easily. He will also recognize where the working of bad forces begins, and of his own accord he will avoid these people wherever possible, or he will offer them so much resistance that the counterforce will slacken, or he will look for more willing creatures which allow themselves to be oppressed without resistance. And thus it is decisive again whether the human being's will is directed towards God. For the beings of light can only assist those. The will towards God is the first prerequisite for finding good spiritual support in every situation in life, in every battle and in all temptations, which are precisely the influence of evil spiritual forces on the human being. Amen.